I'm still I'm still choking. I took a sip of my drink and read Cantor Mark's comment about our beloved love story caster, or the Beaver, as it is otherwise called. And I'm laughing because he said, "Boy, did the Beaver sling the BS in absence of real material." Again, I told the Beaver not to do that. Um, but the Beaver seems to think the Beaver needs to come up with something. And so, as we said, the less you put in there, the more. If you don't know what I'm talking about, the Love Story Caster is a tool inside Unboring Wedding Academy where you just paste your couple's answers to the survey, click a button, wait 3 minutes, and you will be delivered their love story that interweaves both halves of the marriers. And it's usually amazing until it isn't. I like how last week apparently there was somebody posted that there was a narrator, which was very bizarre as well. Anyway, thank you. I'm glad you are beavering your way to success most of the time, Mark. This is a helpful tool for all of us, but you never quite know what you're going to get. So good to see so many of you joining live here today. A lot of you are egging me on a little bit to say, and asking how was Vegas. I talked about wedding MBA in Las Vegas way too much before we went, and I don't want this whole thing to be a recap of Las Vegas. But I have told people in town, back with friends, people say, "How was it?" And I say, whatever the trip equivalent is of being homesick, that is how I feel. Of course, I'm happy to be back with my kids who missed me so much, and, my own bed and all that stuff. I am not in love with Canadian Atlantic November weather, although today is unseasonably warm. But it was just such a fantastic time. Of course, people asked me what the highlight was, and it was having all the members who were there of Unboring Wedding Academy and Pro all together at Fresco Italiano restaurant. That was so amazing. About 25 of us gathered and had a great meal. And I just looked down the table, and people who are connecting, people who have been connecting in the chat. It's just such a pleasure for all of you to meet each other. But many of you, again, who have just been names in the chat. And of course, everybody who buys the course, I shoot a bonjoro, but it's very text based. You know what I look like because you take the videos and stuff. But it was amazing to get to hug so many of you and meet so many of you. It was absolutely fantastic. And of course, there were some people who I wish were there who weren't. Cantor Mark, looking at you, Carol, people who have been there in the past. Hope you can make it again, but man, it was amazing. Love all the hellos dropping in the chat. This is going to be interesting today. The question of the week, you're here for it. Do I charge a higher fee to officiate on a major holiday? Sandra JBL said she's been looking forward to this all day. I hope it's just to hang out, not because you expect some sort of earth-shattering wisdom to descend from above, because I feel like this one could be more on the opinion basis of things. Usually I come out here pretty confident. If it's, a more basic question, how do I handle the photographer? What do I do at the procession? All the other lives, which you can access by just going to the YouTube channel. I presume you are watching on that now. You can just go to the live and you will see every single replay there. And so a lot of time I'm a bit more confident, come out here with a bit of swagger. This one, I do have an opinion. And I'm sure a lot of you have opinions in the chat. So this might be more contentious, more wishy-washy, a little bit more than normal. But it is something that I see coming up a lot in Facebook groups, wherever groups of officiants gather. And 'tis the season, right, for a lot of the major holidays, cultural holidays, religious holidays, civic holidays. And officiants are asking, do I charge a higher fee to officiate on major holidays, especially because couples seem to be booking their weddings without hesitation on those dates, a lot more perhaps than in the past. Although I am coming up on my 18-year anniversary with Naomi, and we were married on New Year's Eve. So who am I to talk? Of course, we got married in Korea together at a little church, and the officiant was a pastor friend of ours there. And so there wasn't any major expense. But those of you who are professionals might be kicking this around and saying, is it okay to charge? Should I charge more? And I do want to kick that around with you in terms of just the things to consider before you make that decision. And of course, I have an opinion and I have a personal policy about it. Do you, Mark? Do you not? Well, I can't tell you right now. We got to keep it. You got to keep you in suspense to keep you here, right? I don't want you leaving yet. So, just wanted to pop in into the chat. Oh my gosh, there's so many of you here saying hello that I'm losing track. I'm just scrolling back up to back to where I was laughing at Mark talking about our beloved love story caster slinging the BS. Great to see Jane here. Jane, that's an inside joke. I'm going to shout Jane whenever I see Jane, and you're going to wonder why. It's because on the first day of Wedding MBA, actually the day before Wedding MBA, I was waiting in line for a coffee in the Westgate Hotel, and I saw Jane walk by in the lobby, kind of the cacophony happening, and I said, Jane, and she turned and was looking. She heard the voice, but did not see me, and so I said, Jane. And I shouted her name about 4 times. It's one of those things where like it seems like everybody else in the lobby found me except Jane. Anyway, eventually she did. It was fantastic. Jane's officially the first person who I saw in person at Wedding MBA. And after that, it just got more and more amazing. Not that it could be any better than meeting Jane in person, but somehow it did. Don't egg me on, Sandra, by saying how was it, because I can't say enough about it. Of course, I went to the Sphere. That was amazing. Naomi and I went to the roller coaster on top of New York, New York on the Wednesday night. And I haven't done that before, but I can't wait to go back again. It was absolutely amazing. We went to, of course, a Cirque du Soleil show, and when you're, that's what I love. I love meeting everybody in Vegas. I got to speak, of course, to the wonderful room of officiants. It was great. It wasn't without drama. Some people don't love what I do and how I market to officiants. So I did get into some flack a little bit with some people who didn't love that I was expoing on the floor, talking to planners, talking about Unboring Wedding Academy. But I do love the officiant community, and I was so super happy to serve and meet all of you. It was absolutely fantastic. And so just popping in your chat, so many of you, great. Candace, looking forward to getting started with the Academy. Good that you're jumping in. That's awesome. Katya's here from Texas. Man, I think it was, who was it? Sabrina was popping in the temperature in Texas today. And I did not need to hear that because I was just in Vegas where it was 28 degrees Celsius on one of the days. And apparently, with the conversion, thank you, Sabrina, for providing that conversion Celsius. It's in the 20s in Texas. Boy, it is in the 20s Fahrenheit where we live here, and I'm already ready for spring. But if you don't love the cold, then you better not live here. Kirsty is here. And speaking of loving the cold, Kirsty skis all year. So, Kirsty, you must be gearing up for skiing. So good to meet you last week as well. One of the highlights, of course, too, was when coming out of the Sphere in those thousands of people. I turn and Kirsty's standing right there. Of course, I've never met her before, but recognized her instantly. And it was just amazing. And that big crowd of people at the Sphere to meet Kirsty. And right away, we kind of hit it off. And I was walking with Naomi and Kirsty. We got to walk all the way back. And it was just, again, picked up from there. So many highlights. My heart is so full from getting to meet everybody. I love Wedding MBA and Vegas, and I've already locked in everything for next year. The dates are a bit wonky, though, a little bit different. It's going to be Tuesday to Thursday, and it's about a 1 week later than usual. And of course, F1 is going to be there again by all indication, which that creates its own chaos. But anyway, it was beautiful. It was great. So wonderful stuff. Ava, thank you. I love what you do. That's wonderful to say. It was great meeting you. Mary Allison Chitty's here. Hi, happy Friday. I just got Mary Allison, I just put on my to-do list to renew your website. Jen was talking to me about that. So good to see you again. We do provide a website service, of course, and Mary Allison's website, of course, is with us. And so good to see you. So I'm telling you now, that is on my to-do list. It is a huge list because while I was at Vegas meeting everybody and doing all that stuff, yeah, life continued on. So the inbox is looking a bit gnarly, but such is life. And I love what I do. A Dash of Love says, I walked a total of 48 miles my week in Vegas. Yeah, I don't have a counter, but my ankles and tops of my feet, which is very unusual, ache for me. I run all summer, all that stuff, but I had the aches, and I think it was just from standing for hours and walking. It is quite the week on your feet in Vegas, but worth every second. Ernie from Richmond, Virginia, really enjoyed your course. So great to hear it, Ernie. I know you're crushing it. So congrats to you. And Selena says, you can't make everyone happy. That is true. Stephen, you're here from Michigan. I know a new member, so thrilled to have you along. You were asking me about the magic of the Love Story caster and how it works, and I look forward to getting back to you on that. And meet me at the altar says not missing another MBA. So I guess I'm talking it up. I love it because I get to be there with Naomi and we take in all the beautiful sights. But if you are a member of Unboring Wedding Academy and you are there next year, I do look forward to taking you out to dinner again. It just went so well, and having us all in the room was such a highlight. I'd love for that to be an annual destination for all of us. So okay, dates for Vegas next year. I don't know, 12, 13, 14 or something. Head to weddingmba.com and you can buy tickets right now. The earlier you buy them, the cheaper they are. So it's a good time to do it. Sandra says, I have a couple. They paid a non-refundable deposit in May. 5 months later, try reaching out to no avail. Wow. What should I do moving forward? That is a great question, and I love being on here live to answer some of your questions. That is really incredible that they paid, and again, this is important because they put you on the calendar. They froze you. You froze your calendar. That's why we call it a booking fee, a retainer, not a deposit for the wedding services you will provide. This is an example of why it's so important to say it's a booking fee. It's a retainer because once you have booked them, they have paid for that service. Now you have reached out to them to no avail. I think you should. I mean, I assume you have tried everything possible. You have tried a phone call again on my intake form. Through our website. It's really important. I always say you want to have a phone number, you want to have 2 email addresses. That's why I asked for the person filling it out and their fiance, because I want as much contact information as possible, because this is crazy. So, Sandra, when is the wedding? Did you say that? They paid for a non-deposit in May, 5 months later. So I wonder when the wedding is. If you have done everything possible, then the only advice I would give you was, obviously don't book another wedding on that date because, again, they paid to freeze the calendar. However, if they contact you a week before the date, I mean, then they have to deal with how unreasonable that is and how you have to smash everything in. And of course, as you know, Sandra, we teach a 4 to 6 week process here. You want to have the wedding workshop. I'm sure you explained all that. So if I were in your position, a couple is not getting back to me, I would just say, I would just do everything I could and then just wait it out. And if the wedding day passes, obviously you don't collect the remaining 50% until you've had the meeting, sent their script, and it's just a week before the day. I collect my fee 2 weeks before the day, and writing the story, all that stuff. But if I were you, I wouldn't stress it. I would just be like, there's nothing more you could do than desperately try to reach out to them. Of course, if you know maybe who their vendors are, on my intake form, I say who's taking your pictures, because I do like to connect with the photographer and after the wedding and ask for photos and stuff. So if you do have that information, you might want to reach out to the photographer. Do everything you can to contact them is my point. And then just you've done what you need to do, and just continue to hold the date for them, because that is what they paid for. And ultimately, it looks like they might pay a few $100s for nothing. Now, you're saying the wedding is August 2024. I'm wondering why you're reaching out to them now, because I would not be reaching out to them until 3 months before the day. We want the wedding workshop to be 4 to 6 weeks before. So typically I reach out to them about 3 months before the wedding date. And then we get that gives us kind of a month of lead time to get something in the calendar. So it's just possible that they're saying this is way too early. So that I wouldn't stress yet. In fact, I wouldn't even be reaching out to my couple for an August wedding until about May or June. So I'm just wondering if they're busy and putting you off. So don't panic yet. Again, they locked you in, and so that is nothing to stress about yet. Sam, I got your thank you. Just a public thank you for your assistance and helping me. Hey, you absolutely crushed it. I do agree with you that we should not cue the music until you say the last name and then they head up the aisle. So in your script, when it said cue the music, I often tell the DJ, have your finger ready when I get everybody on their feet and say, I present you for the first time, Mr. and Mr. or whatever it is, the big, finish. Then start the music. However, this has happened where they start the music while I'm saying, everybody stand, I present, and the music starts. And it just means I shout louder, which means it's a louder cheer. So I know, Sam, you said that was a bit of a hiccup in that email to me. You crushed it, but there was just that weird ending. But hey, just shout louder. Selena says, what about giving me what about them giving me less than a month's notice? You're still fine, I would say. So the first thing you want to do when you're under a bit of a time crunch, Selena, is lock in a planning session with them. That's stage one of the course right away. And just say, we're going to sit down and have a 1 hour meeting where we go over your whole ceremony in detail. So that's definitely still doable. It's just a matter of how comfortable you are. So lock in that meeting with them. If you're going to grab the course, sounds like I'm get to be excited to work with you. Stage one teaches you how to run that meeting. Get my spreadsheet. You just walk them through it. And then, of course, you send them their survey and they fill that out, about half an hour of work each. So it's really a matter of how quickly can they do that. Once you get all that data from the worksheet, you create the script and then you can write the story. But of course, our love story caster will allow you to do that in minutes as opposed to hours. So you're still on a great timeline. I guess that means the ceremony is somewhere in mid-December or something like that. Anyway, so then you're still good. Okay, I should get to. I'm so distracted by the party happening in the chat. Sabra's here. Oh my gosh, good to see you. And loved having dinner with you. Sabra sat at the head of the table. How appropriate. I know. I know you're kind of embarrassed about that, but it was so great to see you, and I was happy to also market for the Celebrant Academy at the same time. My lovely colleague Sabra is a member of the Celebrant Academy as well as Unboring Wedding Academy. She's a member of all the academies. So good to see you here. And John, nice to see you. I'm your wedding guy. Happy Friday. Okay, let me just get to the question here. Let me stop beating around the bush. Do you charge a higher fee to officiate on major holidays? Why would you want to charge a fee to officiate on major holidays? Of course, the reason would be to make it worth you putting your pants on and heading out the door, as opposed to staying in your cozy pants, right? Whatever you wear around the house. So I understand you saying, "Listen, this could be a very important day off for me, especially if you have another job. If you work half time or full time in another job, and then of course that job will typically give you the day off, typically, not every industry or every field. But then, of course, you have the day off, and then you're thinking, okay, now this couple is asking me to officiate a wedding on a holiday. So, in order to make it worth it, giving up my time, my holiday, my rest, I am going to charge more to this couple for causing me to do this on a major holiday. So, that is one reason. And I'd love, I predict that this is going to be a highly opinionated topic. So feel free to pop something in the chat if you have been in this position, or even if I don't know if you want to show your cards too early on what you decide to do, because I haven't told you yet what I'm going to do, although this might be a very long conversation or not that long. But I want to talk to you about, what things you might want to consider before you go ahead and charge a fee to officiate on a major holiday. So of course, this idea of charging more for working on a holiday, I think, comes from that full-time job model. If a factory or something is making you work, or if you're working in retail or something like that, and your boss or your company are saying, hey, if you don't want to get fired, you need to be here. You need to be here to keep your job on a holiday. Then, oh my gosh, absolutely, you should get paid double time and triple time, whatever it is, whatever the company policy is for working on a holiday. And, back in the day when I was in ministry, I was a pastor about 10 years ago. And sometimes, Christmas fell on a Sunday, for example. And instead of being by the tree with my family, I had to get up and do the thing, because a lot of churches continue to do their services on a holiday if that's the way it falls on the calendar. And so there was always that sense of like, oh, I don't really want to go out. I'd rather, it kind of messes up the family tradition that happens 5 or 6 years in a row, and then year 7. But we're talking again New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, things like that, things where everybody else is off and you pick up a wedding. So yeah, it comes from this model of having to work or needing to work. Your company should compensate you for working when everyone else is off. I totally get that. But again, I don't think, and this is where I'm going to start showing my cards a bit. For me, the answer to this question is a no. Do I charge a higher fee to officiate on major holidays? I'm going to just say I don't do that. You can, but here are some things to consider. First of all, when a couple decides to book their wedding on New Year's Day, for example, or New Year's Eve. I've had weddings on all the last New Year's Eves. Yes, on my anniversary, Naomi did give me the green light. It's okay. I got married on New Year's Eve. I've officiated on New Year's Eve. People just love putting on big parties, and that's where you kind of it's arbitrary, right? Because you're like, well, I have my own party to go to. Should I charge double, or should I charge a holiday premium for working on New Year's Eve, or is New Year's Day the holiday? Well, a lot of couples don't do a wedding on New Year's Day because of the partying that happened the night before. So here's the thing to consider, really, is that I don't think anyone's forcing you to work on the when you accept a wedding. So a couple reaches out to you and says, "Hey, will you officiate on January 1st, let's say, or December 25th?" Maybe they don't observe, a major civic holiday, and so they say, "Will you officiate on this day?" Well, right away you have a decision to make. And let's use the example of New Year's Eve. It's not technically a holiday, but I would ask Naomi, hey, it's our anniversary. It looks like I can take this wedding and be home by 4 o'clock, and then we can go for dinner and get on with our lives, etc. As an officiant, typically, again, you're not working for many hours of the wedding day. Depending on how far away it is, you want to be there 45 minutes ahead of time. You're going to officiate the wedding for about half an hour, say. 15 minutes after that, you bounce. So it's typically 2 hours for me, plus uh, give or take any commuting. And so I always make that decision when I say, am I going to work? Am I going to pick up a wedding? I decide whether or not I'm going to take it depending on my availability. And sometimes I just tell a couple, I'm sorry, I'm not booking any weddings on that date. Of course, sometimes I'm already booked. But if I'm not, a lot of time I'll just say, I'm not available on that date. They don't need any more information than that. Here's the thing to consider that really makes it helps the decision for me. Anytime I officiate for a couple, I want that couple to hold me in the highest possible regard. And so this is where I would just say, if you're thinking about officiating more on a major holiday, how do you feel? How would you feel when you reach out to a service provider and they say, yes, I'll do this for you on the holiday, but I'm going to charge you more for the exact same amount of work? Now, again, some of us may answer this differently, but this is the thing. You're not going to work any harder for working on that date. There may be some inconvenience, there may not be. I guess I don't think that I should charge for an inconvenience that I incur for for a date that I chose to take. Does that make sense? I don't think I should charge a premium to the couple and hand that to them when there's no extra monetary cost to me, and there's no extra work for doing that. So here's what I mean by highest positive regard. I think when a couple reaches out and says, "Will you work on X holiday?" If I say yes, but there is a premium fee to do so, it might put them back on their heels a little bit, especially those of us who charge quite a premium already because our services are so excellent. For example, I guarantee you are going to love your wedding ceremony. And if you don't, I give you a 100% refund. I've never had to issue that refund, thankfully. So there is that sense, I think, of right away, I want the couple to be, I always want them to be absolutely thrilled with me, excited to work with me, and never feeling like they are being taken advantage of. And so I would have a chem check with a couple, as I always do before I officiate their wedding. And yeah, we would acknowledge that it's going to happen on a holiday. But here's where I would say to them, I acknowledge that it's on a holiday. I don't know what your other wedding vendors are doing, but it is a couple hours of my day, okay, including me having to put a suit on. And so I'm not going to charge you a premium for that day. Now, here's the thing why I would probably advise expressly saying you're not going to charge a premium for working on the holiday is if I were, now I'm going to switch and talk to couples. If I were a couple who hired vendors on a holiday and they didn't charge me extra, I would feel compelled to tip the vendor. Okay, so do you see how the difference here is? This is where you put the ball in your couple's court, and you don't, I wouldn't say don't expect it, but if I'm an officiant, I don't want to charge them more for voluntarily taking the wedding and doing no extra work. I'm not going to do anything different in my process just because it's a holiday. Now, I will say the caveat, if for some reason you're in a city where some prices go up or something that you provide, I don't know, is public transit or the tolls or is travel more expensive somehow, renting a car, whatever it is. If you can demonstratively show them that, okay, if you book me on this day, my costs are going to go up somehow. Then I'd like you to absorb that cost if possible, kind of like travel fees. Then I would say that's okay. But just to put a surcharge, I would not like to put my couple back on their heels and know that I'm just kind of taking advantage of them because, again, I didn't want to put pants on that day and get dressed and go out into the world. I'd rather stay at home. That's how I approach it. So, and this is the one definitive factor, like I said, is I want my couple to always feel like I am over delivering for them. And so, typically, a couple, again, my kind of couple, where I have a chem check with them and make sure they're my kind of person and they're a fun couple in New Brunswick and they want to work with me. I'm going to just kind of, I want them to feel really grateful, really happy to work with me, knowing I am not taking advantage of them in any way. And then I feel like they might uh, be considerate in adding a tip to my services. Now, of course, I already charge about double what most officiants in New Brunswick charge. And so there is that factor to consider as well, as I am already very well compensated, much more than the average. But that might be their way of saying thank you to me and any and all of their vendors for taking a tip. So I sat there, especially knowing this was coming up, and thought, what would make me want to charge more? And of course, it was this sense of like, well, the competition, the person who actually pays the fee will get me when, 8 couples want me for that day. But that's no different than anything else, which is interesting how Sandra's conversation, this was a good dovetail into it, where, yeah, a couple pays you a booking fee already. That's what they're already paying for. They're already paying to freeze that in your calendar. And so I just weigh very carefully whether or not I want to take on a wedding, and I decide, and I'm volunteering, I'm putting up my hand, and I want the couple to be super grateful already. very aware that it is a holiday, knowing that I'm not charging them any extra. And yeah, a tip would be nice. But when you are charging a certain amount of money, asking for a certain compensation, then really it does just become a sense of, I think, is it worth it for me to go out at all and do this? You want to be charging a rate that you're really happy with anytime you have to go out. And when you have a process, okay, it's not that difficult. I'm going to follow my own process. And on the wedding day itself, typically you are out there for a couple of days. So a couple of hours rather. So I would not take a wedding, for example, on Christmas Day, just personally. I have two young kids. And so there's like no amount of money that would cause me to officiate a wedding on a day that I didn't want to officiate. That's just me personally. You might, everybody has a price. That's what you see in the movies. But no, I'll officiate on New Year's Eve, for example. I'll put up my hand and officiate on dates where I want to officiate, and I will not charge my couple over and above my regular rate because I don't want them to feel different than any other couple, because we all know I'm not going to do anything different in terms of my process and delivery. They're going to get exactly what everybody else gets, guaranteed. So that's where I'm at. What happened here on the chat? What happened? Are we any fights? Any vehement disagreement? I missed a lot. Let's see. I just opened a tab. That was weird. Okay. Sandra, thank you for your kind words. Really appreciate it. I'm glad I bring some happiness. Let's hope that's still true. I wonder if there's any strong disagreement about, let's see, Entertainer's Credo. We give up our lives on the weekends and holidays so you can have one. I like that, Mark. So yeah, I guess that's an entertainer's credo, and I would say a lot of officiating a wedding is entertainment. We already, to your point, Mark, we already officiate on weekends, right? And that's part of why I got out of Toronto, as I realized every time I need to meet with a couple, it's in the evening. Every time I officiate a wedding, it's on the weekend. I'm never going to see my family. And so, we moved out here to the Atlantic coast at a beautiful Canadian destination wedding area. I just needed to design my life a little bit differently, aware that if I'm going to keep doing this full time, which is what I want, I am out on evenings and weekends. And so, am I going to charge a fee? Hey, you're getting married on a Saturday? Hey, that's the weekend. That's not how officiants work as it is already. So I am going to keep scrolling down here. I no longer perform personally weddings on major holidays. Holidays are for family, but my team associates do. Yes, when booking a holiday, there is a premium. Okay, so you charge a premium, minimum $150 for people who volunteer to officiate on a wedding. And again, if I were you're on your team, your associate, I wouldn't like the pressure that puts on me. I don't want to approach couples that way. I don't mean to single you out, but that I already laid my cards. You said fold the cards. Mark said fold the cards, and I'm laying them on the table and saying the positive regard that a couple that I will build with a couple who knows I'm working on that holiday and deciding I'm not charging them anyway. That's worth any kind of fee that I could charge them. It's so important to me that the couple absolutely loves me and excited to work with me and will leave a glowing review. And that might make it into the review. Mark didn't charge anymore. That might mean a tip, whatever it is. I love to look for easy ways to massively over deliver and make couples absolutely thrilled with me. Maybe that's my childhood issues. I don't know. But that is my approach. So, like I say, and I like how you said I no longer perform personally weddings on major holidays. I don't either, but that's something for you to decide. Saber says heating and cooling, the trades, they all charge extra for holidays. Yeah, absolutely. So I would agree with that. That when something breaks and you need to help somebody or that kind of thing, that is absolutely true. Something to consider. Typically, again, it's about a staff member. So again, the Myrtle Beach Wedding said they have a team, and so they charged the couple to compensate that team. So there are different models here, but again, I think I've laid my case out, and I knew that there would be all these different approaches, and so just kind of like kicking the tires on the pros and the cons. That's why I said at the beginning of this conversation, do I charge a higher fee? We're not going to settle this, but that's just my approach. Like I say, what eclipses any amount of money, $150, $200, is I want the couple to be so happy with me that I didn't, that it's worth anything they could pay me. So we're all going to fall on different parts of the spectrum on this, and so yeah. Sandra says, I would have said you personally, Mark, would charge double for sure. Okay, but no. Yes, Sabra. Okay, so Sabra says we can always say no. Again, this is all true, and I don't know that it's any sort of tiebreaker. I wonder what the thoughts are on that sense of I want a couple to really, really, to really be over enthralled with us for not charging them extra just because there's a date on the calendar, knowing that we are not actually doing any work, our fees don't go up. And yes, there is that sense of time away from family, but here's the difference between the trades is um, in the trades, the person is not standing there in front of an audience, right? When the plumber comes over, the electrician, you don't have to feel great about them. You just have, again, if they're working on a holiday, usually something broke, and you're like, I will pay you anything to just come, and this is a disaster that happened on this day. There is this, again, I go back to how I use the word chemistry check. I want the couple and I to have this incredible dynamic of mutual admiration in front of their loved ones on the day that I just, anything like that I feel like would come in the way of that positive regard, I just try to remove that obstruction. And so to me, that would include, charging them a little extra. I just feel like it would get in the way. Kirsty was married on New Year's Eve as well. Hey, happy anniversary to you, coming up in a few weeks. Good, good. Let's see, Mr. Golo, you do charge more than the industry average already. Yes, I do, exactly. And so, and that, again, that comes from that comes from experience, and again, the guarantee that I charge. You're right. So you slide up based on uh, lots of factors, but I don't want any of my couples, my clients, to feel like they are being charged more than any of my other clients. I guess that's where it comes in for me. Again, except for something like travel. So with travel, and this is where you might say, oh, well, it's similar. But if I'm going to travel 2 hours in the car, and I have done that, and I'm trying to scale back that as well, 2 hours each way, including the rehearsal, I think I should be paid for that time, because other couples that hire me to officiate 10 minutes away, they're not asking the same amount of time for me. So this is where, to me, if you like, that's why I said, if you can justify the cost, if it doesn't feel arbitrary, nobody likes arbitrary costs. Um, eh, if it doesn't feel arbitrary, then I'm happy to charge it, and I'm happy to pay for a professional that can show me the charges as well. But nobody likes feeling like they shelled out money for nothing really tangible, right? Uh, and so that is my approach to it. Is I want to be able to, if I charge somebody more, I want to be able to show them that it costs more. For example, if I didn't have a car, in Toronto, I didn't have a car. So a lot of the time I might be able to say, look, I got to rent a car on the holiday, and it costs 3 times as much, or plane tickets if you're flying to weddings or whatever it is. Then you do want to pass on the cost to the couple, and you can show them. But I'm not up for arbitrary charges, and I want the couple to be feeling like I over deliver. So there is that. I do see Claudia here, LOLing at Mark, which is awesome. So that is my take. This was not meant to convince anyone, but I know it comes up a lot, and you want to be comfortable either way. And a lot of time on Facebook groups like Wedding Officiants of America or something, this question comes up. And of course, there's a raft of opinions, but really it's more like a survey. Hey, what do y'all do? What do you do? What do you do? What's the consensus out there? And so I do think it's important. That's what I was saying. Get going in the chat. Um, if you want to have a sense of what other people are doing, we did see Myrtle Beach weddings, $150 surcharge for anything on a holiday. Other officiants just say, I just don't do it. And so that's where so many of us are saying, I don't officiate on a holiday. Others might say, well, there's such a supply problem with more demand that, hey, I can charge more. Absolutely. This is, that's kind of market demand, supply and demand, capitalism, all that stuff. But for me, like I say, it's so important for a couple to really love my services, have that vibe with me, that I just wouldn't want to do it personally. I would want them to possibly consider giving me a tip, or at the very least, leave a great review. And say, Mark over delivered, and we were blown away that he didn't charge us $100 more or something, and maybe all the other vendors did. So that's my approach. There's no right or wrong. It's just an interesting opportunity, this forum, to kind of survey the community and say, hey, how do you feel? What do you do? Kate says my fee is probably what some people would get for a tip. Uh, so that's it. Any other questions before I pop off here? Before I do, I just want to say, it's great that many of you are considering. I'm seeing Selena, I believe, considering popping into Unboring Wedding Academy and joining all these other great members. I'm so thrilled to hear that. Look out for your inbox next week if you are on my list. Go to Unboring Wedding, unboringwedding.com/guide for my free guide to get on my list if you're not on it. And next week is our famous Black Friday. That's where I bundle Academy and Pro and website. We're going to do that again. I sent out an email to the list today thanking everyone for making this the year of the beaver, which is why it was so appropriate that Mark just jumped on right here and started talking about the beaver, our love story cast. So that was the big thing in 2023. As I have teased, more information on this coming, I am developing a wedding officiant software that will eliminate all of the copying and pasting of forms and sheets and the process. Imagine if we all had a dashboard that was web-based, that we could just create a ceremony and click through every step of the way. It automatically emails our couple, things are automatically pasted in, documents are automatically created. Wouldn't that be amazing? Look for that in 2024. And that's the kind of thing where if you are a member of Unboring Wedding Academy, I kind of grandfather that stuff in, same way I did with the Love Story Caster. Because if this stuff is making my life easier at a wedding as a wedding officiant, I want you to have access to it as well. So it's because I officiate weddings, I'm trying to develop these tools that make my life easier. So yours as well. Thrilled to do that. So stay close to that inbox. I will see you next week. I am going to do a live series next week, not just Friday live, but I'm going to be on here Thursday and Friday and Saturday. I know for my American friends, Thursday is Thanksgiving Day. So I will be on here. If you're cooking turkey or watching football, you can put me in one of your earbuds or something like that. And I will have a live training session 3 days in a row for our special Black Friday weekend. So hope to see you there. See you Thursday. And thanks again for all of your really cool, interesting takes on whether or not you charge for officiating wedding. Kirsty's asking, is it the same time? I do feel like this time makes it easy for everyone. Maybe less easy for people on the West Coast. I was just there. Man, I'm just getting over my jet lag now. I'm just typing in unboringweddingacademy.com. Somebody asked, what's the link for the academy? Unboringweddingacademy.com. Is that link right? Before I type it in here, I guess you could type in unboringweddingacademy.com, but I just want to make sure I'm typing it in properly. There you go. Like I say, lots of good things coming in 2024. And of course, the Beaver, our love story caster, which is really fun to use because you never quite know what's going to come out. But usually it's 90% good to go. You might have to cut some things out. But thanks for joining. Just registered for Wedding MBA 2024. Sabrina, you're going to be there. That's awesome. I will mark you down for dinner already. No, no, that's not an official reservation. I will send out that invite closer to. Rolling my thing from 2020 to 2024. Wow, Mark, they let you kick the can down the road for 4 years. So that means we can look forward to seeing you there. Man, guys, I'm already super excited for next year. I don't want this year to go by quick. I love every day, I savor every day, but I am excited for it. I came back right away and bought myself a little collapsible kettle because at the Westgate, they don't have any sort of machine in your room to make coffee or tea or anything. And you have to go downstairs to the cafe, the line where I saw Jane, and it's $5 for a tea, $5 US for a coffee. Naomi and I we tallied it up like over $100 on just drinking liquid for that week. So we thought, okay, next year we're going to bring our own like Starbucks via sachets and tea bags, and we're going to bring our own little kettles. So I already got that as soon as I got home, so I didn't forget. Every year we go, we get better. We went grocery shopping this year on the Sunday. As opposed to buying $5 cans of bubbly, we got a couple of cases for that price. So, you got to kind of know how not to get bilked on the trip. Which that's a nice. I'm on topic, right? The same thing I said, where I don't want any couples to feel like the same product, a can of bubbly on the Las Vegas Strip is $5. But if I, walk half an hour, Naomi and I walked to the nearest grocery store from Westgate, you can get a case for $5. So there's just that sense of like, I kind of resented spending the money I did on a cup of hot water. Did it anyway, but now I can make a better plan for next year. Kirsty said I brought my collapsible kettle with me to the Westgate. Hey, you did it. That was your first time and you already knew. So yeah, we are exactly about Starbucks. We are going to do that. Oh, we're all on the same page. No hotel host. Like, okay, guys, what? Westgate sucks? Uh, no, I've stayed at Westgate 3 years in a row. I loved it. And the restaurants there. Naomi and I went to the Edge Steakhouse, Fresco Italiano. I just love the vibe. It's like at the end of the strip, kind of. You're not on the strip. You're right next to the convention center. It's just great. Dimples says I will try to make it to Vegas next year. Hope you can. All right, I'm gonna pop off here. I could do this all day. Members only office hours are gonna come up next week, not next Tuesday, but the Tuesday after. But again, I will see you Thursday, Friday, Saturday because this is so much fun for me. Hope you can make it. Thanks for joining me live. You guys always make Fridays super special for me. Can't wait to see you next week. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and thanks for engaging me on the chat. Loved it. And I will see you next week. Marry on, everybody. Thanks again.